They do now.
Well, hey, good morning and welcome. And whether you love it or you hate it, gift giving is a big part of this season, isn't it? And I know some of you are already done. We hate you, but good for you. I know my girls were out all night, you know, Black Friday, Christmas. It's become Thanksgiving night is the real shopping time now. But all night while I kept the cats company by the fire, that was my job. But others of you haven't started yet. Some of you are going to wait about, I don't know, another 20 days to start, and then you'll pick something up at Rutter's on the way home. But whether you like it or not, gift giving is a big deal. And it's really overwhelming, isn't it? Not just the financial part. I mean, that's part of it. But knowing who to give to, and then there's sort of nothing worse than going somewhere and someone got a gift for you and you don't have a gift for them, and then you're rummaging around, like in the back of the car to see if you can find anything, like, yeah, a flare, it's like whatever. It's hard finding it. And so, I don't know about you, but in many families at least, the way we manage it, and especially at offices and, places of business and schools, we manage sort of that difficulty when it comes to Christmas with the thing called the spending cap, right? And I don't know if you have one in your family. We do in our family, thankfully, because if we didn't, my wife is really generous and I'm really bad with money, so we probably wouldn't eat in January if we didn't have one. So we have sort of an agreed on cap, and then she saves money all year at a Christmas club. And because it's the Record family, we're pretty rigid about it. Like, she's been known to give change back in the stocking. Like, you go, what's this $3? Well, I didn't spend all of it, so here's the rest, which is kind of funny. But I'm known to violate the spending cap not because I'm super generous, just it's so hard to kind of find right under. So I use all sorts of tricks and stuff. I'm like, I bought that with a gift card, so it doesn't, so whatever. But here's the thing about that, that's probably wise in a family, but the thing is, when it comes down to an office situation, I just come to know that there's sort of nothing worse than shopping for that $10 spending cap, right? I mean, does anyone actually enjoy that other than a few of you who just have no soul, whose heart is 10 sizes too small and like to just go to the Rutter's and grab a lottery ticket and go, oh, I'm done. But other than that, most of us really struggle with that because it's oh, this is not good. There's nothing good I'm gonna get for $10, and it's hard to really show you care, which you probably don't, but when it comes to that $10 spending cap. And so, on one hand, I don't think anybody really enjoys and gets excited about, buying a gift. But on the other hand, no one is excited to get the gift, right? I've had stuff like that where you go, hey, thanks, and you don't even unwrap it for a week and a half, and it's in the back of your car going around. And so it's interesting to think about, and kind of why I wanted you to think about that in the series we're going to talk about, is on one hand, we have Christmas and gift giving, which is a problem. It's filled with difficulty, and it's filled with sort of pressure. And some of you have an ulcer right now just thinking about it. You're like, please, I'd rather talk about the thing we talked about last month. Let's go back to the Old Testament rather than talk about spending for Christmas, because that makes me feel sick at my stomach. But on one hand, we have that, and sort of this overwhelming thing of trying to get everyone the right gift and find the right gift and pay for the right gift. But on the other hand, the way we sort of work on that and we deal with that is a spending cap, and it takes all the fun and all the joy out of it. So that's what we call throwing the baby out with the bathwater, okay? That's what that's all about. Throughout the years, and I found that this is actually a German saying, which I was going to learn in German, but it sounded just vulgar at some reason. I don't know why. There's a couple words in there I knew it would mangle. But it's a German saying, which means, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. See, I translated it for you, but it's this picture of, in trying to get rid of something bad, baby bathwater, we want to get rid of that, we lose the most important thing. And I think that definitely happens at Christmas. In fact, I know it does when it comes to the $10 gift cap. Yes, it fixes the problem of buying gifts, and it takes away some of the pressure of dealing with gift giving. But when we put really rigid spending caps in place, it takes the joy and the fun. And the whole point is to what? Tell people, hey, I care about you, and that totally goes away. Now, here's the thing about gift giving that I want you to think about too, is that sometimes this is not in life, this is metaphorical. The bathwater is the best part, right? Like when it comes to the whole thing, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I know I have, like shopping forever. And part of me thinks, oh my God, that sounds like torture. Like put me in Guantanamo Bay, don't make me shop forever. But when you're trying to find that perfect thing for someone you care about, I know I've been on eBay like for hours and trying to find like a certain purse for Michelle in years past, and like it's like hunting after a while. You know, it's like I've got to find this thing. And some of you are really good at that. I've met people, I think my wife's good at that. I don't know if I am. My mother-in-law, she's passed away a few years back. She was great at this. Like, you were like, I don't know if she's like listening into what I say during the year, because how does she even know? Like, I remember, and I think I've told this story before, but I used to always complain about, like, I watch NASCAR and church runs too long, so I would literally knock you down on the way out of church at the church we were working at to get home to watch NASCAR. And she just bought me this whole thing filled with NASCAR and a DVR in the middle of it. And I was like, how did you do that? That was amazing. And so there's part of that, like knowing the person and sort of hunting for the perfect gift. That's bathwater. I mean, it can be rough, but that might be the best part. And sometimes even spending too much. Like spending like that extravagant gift. I don't know if you've ever got an extravagant gift. I have. And it's not something that you would think. It's kind of cool. And I think Reagan's in here. My daughter's in here. But don't worry, she never gets a surprise for Christmas. But she's getting her first real pair of Doc Martens for Christmas. And if you go, why would you say that before Christmas? She's going to wrap them. She's been wrapping her gifts for years. And I'm not even joking about that. It's a great thing to have in a kid. Like, you're like, when those come in, they come from Amazon, try them on, and wrap them. That's the way we do business in our house. But anyway, so she knows. But she asked for that, and I will tell you, Dad got really excited because I've got lots of Doc Martens over the years, and I love them, and I have a collection. And so I was like asking her all these questions. She was kind of rolling her eyes like, it's not that big a deal. I just want. But it was funny because I purchased those, and that was no big deal. It was part of her gift, you know, but I remembered back, and I told her the story of my first pair of Doc Martens. My wife got them, like we'd been married about a year and a half, and I was trying to be a musician, so I needed really expensive boots and really expensive equipment to make like no money. So we were so broke, and she got me actually the tall Doc Martens that came all the way to my knees, and it was the 90s, so I could wear them with shorts and look grungy. It was awesome. And then, I mean, honestly, I think they were about $125. And that was a big part of our budget for the month. I will just tell you at that point. I mean, it was extravagant. It was way too much. We were hungry after that. But I still remember that gift almost 30 years later. And so sometimes that's the point. Sometimes doing too much and going too far, and we miss that when we put these limits on. And so probably if we're just being sort of thinking out loud, I'm not suggesting this, don't worry, you won't have to go home and do this. But imagine a Christmas. Imagine a Christmas with like no spending caps and no names drawn, that you actually got gifts for people you cared about and not from people you didn't. You weren't forced to, so you could actually find out if no one got you a gift. Maybe no one cares. That would be sort of hurtful, but true, right? And imagine like no limit. So somebody gets a car, it would be like the Lexus commercial, which I gotta bring that picture in. You notice the girl when they morph back and forth, she has really long arms? That's bothering me, but I'll tell you that later. But anyway, like maybe somebody get a car and maybe somebody get like nothing because someone couldn't afford to give. I mean, it would be really sort of awkward and scary, but can you imagine the thrill of a Christmas like that? I mean, just let's think crazy. Like someone could get you a really extravagant gift, and I know what you're thinking, and it's true. Like someone would totally take advantage, someone wouldn't buy anything, anyone. I know that would be human nature, but it would be exciting. Now here's the thing. Instead, what we do, again and again and again, we're going to talk about this all month, like kind of in protecting ourselves from the bathwater, we throw out the baby. And I believe the same thing is true when it comes to baby Jesus, because Christmas, from a Christian perspective, and I'm not anti-Santa Claus. I mean, look around this church. It looks like, I think Raph said it so perfectly, like an elf vomited Christmas. That's what we're going for. Actually, Buddy said to me, not Buddy the elf, actual Buddy. So, he quoted Buddy the elf and said, "It looks good, too good. I think somebody's gunning for my job." I was like, oh, I wish I would have thought of that. But it almost does look too good today. But anyway, we can fix that. We'll bring more crap in. Don't worry. But here's the thing. I'm not anti-Christmas. I love Christmas. I like silly Christmas. But when it comes to the important part of Christmas, the reason why we do all the other stuff, and we'll talk about that this month, it's all down to baby Jesus. Now, the problem with baby Jesus is the bathwater. And we don't like to talk about the bathwater, and I don't think it's we're avoiding it. We just don't think of it because we've turned him into some sort of magical creature, sort of like an elf or a Santa. You know, it's like we've turned him into a Christmas character. But Jesus, baby Jesus, was an actual baby. And guess what? You know this if you have babies. We've got lots of babies at Action Church. Babies create bathwater, and I'm not talking about just bathwater, but yes, actual bathwater, lots of it, you know. And then there's that weird point where you have to bathe them and they still have the weird black plug in place, and you're like, I don't know what to do with that. That's why moms do that, but I'm always super scared of that. But I mean, there's lots of bathwater that comes along with babies, and babies are adorable, and I love babies. And here's the thing. Every parent will tell you most of the time, they're worth it. But I mean, think about like dirty diapers and all of these things. Jesus had these. Diaper bills. Who knew diapers was like a car payment? I mean, who knew like before you have a baby how expensive the formula bills? We had, and this is horrible to say, but they say that they cut heroin with baby formula. We had to buy a baby formula for Reagan that was more expensive than heroin. And I was like, I think they actually cut this with heroin. I remember like going behind the glass case and going, you're what? This tiny little, and so maybe you're spending a ton on formula, or maybe you have no formula bills at all, and that ain't fun either. I mean, there's lots of bath, I don't know for sure, but there's sleepless nights, there's stretch marks, I mean, there's doctor bills, you have to get a safe car, I mean, that's no fun. My wife still has a convertible, she hasn't driven since Reagan was born, you know, and more sleepless nights, so there's lots and lots and lots, and I know there's moms out there going, oh, you don't know the half of it, I gotta tell you, I understand. Like, there's lots and lots of bathwater that comes with babies. Now, here's the thing about our babies is that we would miss something if we missed the bathwater, wouldn't we? Now, I know it doesn't feel like that when you're up all night. Or it doesn't feel like that. Like, it's so funny, like, everything that I'm telling you this morning is probably because I got a 14-year-old. Like, when I had a 2-year-old, I probably wouldn't have even said this because I was still like, oh, this is murder, you know? But you will look back, I promise, you will look back, and probably as I become more of an empty nester, I'll probably look back with a tear in my eye, like, oh, this is so wonderful. But I'm already like going, that was amazing. Like, we didn't have maternity insurance when our daughter was born, and that was amazing. Like, we paid a lot of money for her, but now we look back and laugh, but it was a nightmare back then. But all of those things, see, my theory is honestly that that's why we love our kids so much. Like, that's why I'm crazy about my kids, and your kids are okay. Might be your kids, I don't know, but like, you know, and you feel the same way, I hope. Like, you look at it and you go, oh, they're so cute, but you really don't. Like, you think my kids are better? I think it's because we're invested. I really think the reason why sort of we bond with our children and we love our children so much is because, man, we got skin in the game. Like, we've got a lot of bathwater out there. And so I really believe we'd miss a lot without that. And, so that's what I want to talk to you about this month. And that's what I want you to think about, this idea of baby Jesus, like this celebration of Jesus the baby, of the birth of Jesus, the amazing birth of Jesus, as a real baby who had real life consequences, because we don't often think about that, do we? I'd like to read to you from Luke 2, and it's going to be up on the screen. It's a familiar reading. Maybe you read this at Christmas, or maybe you hear this every year, but it's so beautiful. This is the story of Jesus' birth as told to Dr. Luke, who wrote Luke. And one of the things I like about Luke's writing is he said, as a physician, he said, I went back and I tried to get all of the best eyewitness accounts. I tried to give you the best sort of on-the-scene information, and I'm so glad he did. I'm so glad he wrote it down. And then the amazing thing is, 2,200 years later, we still have it. It's amazing. So I just want to read this. It says, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee. Village in Galilee is Nazareth, not a big town, not a well-loved town, sort of the Yo of Southeast, I don't know. Somebody lives in Yo and they're mad at me. I always pick on Yo this time of year. I don't know, but it's like a little nothing town. I know there's going to be someone from Yo. But anyway, like, it's a little nothing town, and in fact, they go, like you're from Nazareth or something. I mean, it was so funny to think about, like, just the place you wouldn't think that an angel would visit. You definitely wouldn't think the Messiah would be born. And then it says, to a virgin named Mary. Now she was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. And Gabriel appeared to her and said, greetings, favored woman, the Lord is with you. And confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel would mean. Don't be afraid, Mary, the angel told her, for you have found favor with God. And you will conceive and you will give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. And he will be very great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his ancestor David, and he will reign over Israel forever. His kingdom will never end. So he says this to a young woman. We don't know how young. Some people make her very young. She could have been an older teenager, might have been even as high as 20. Probably not at that time. They got married young. So probably 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. And he's telling her in a time when her country is overrun by the Romans, where they are slaves to the Romans, that she would give birth to it. It's very clear to her that this is the Messiah. This is not just a special baby. This is an angelic baby. This is the Son of God who is going to rule, who's going to be the King of Israel forever. And I mean, that's amazing. And there's just no bathwater in that, is it? Like, look at them. Their heads are glowing. I mean, there's nothing bad's going to happen when your head's glowing. That's amazing. And so that's the way we think of this. Like a lot of times, like we think of it in Christmas ornaments and in, nativity sets and all of. We actually got a rubber ducky nativity set for our bathroom, which I think is blasphemous, but it is hilarious. You ought to see it. But anyway, that's just me. I found it on Amazon. But anyway, like, it's just amazing to think like, oh, this is wonderful. This is magical. This is Christmas. This is, angels and glowing. But let's read on. Mary had a few questions. It says, Mary asked the angel, how can this happen? I am a virgin. And the angel replied, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Don't worry, God will be the Father. So the baby to be born will be holy, and he will be called the Son of God. What's more, your relative Elizabeth has become pregnant in her old age. People used to say she was barren, but she has conceived a son and is now in her 6th month. For the word of God will never fail. And Mary responded, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. And then the angel left her. All of a sudden, there's not just one miracle baby. There's 2 miracle babies. Don't worry, I know this is going to be a special kind of baby. God will be the father. And by the way, your Aunt Elizabeth, who has been barren, like you don't have a cousin, but guess what? You do have one on the way. And why she didn't know that? No social media. They hadn't done the reveal party on YouTube yet. But anyway, all of a sudden she's like, so it was a sign to Mary. And so this is this amazing thing. And so we read that, we go, oh, that's amazing. 2 miracle babies. But here's the truth. You know what this was? This was scandal. And not like, we kind of go, oh, Juno scandal. No, not Juno scandal, Weinstein scandal. Like this was a kind of scandal. I don't even know who to say anymore. There's like some different one every day. I think Josiah said somebody told them they should have like the Hunger Games, like cannon and light in the sky every night. Like who's good? But it's just sad. But here's the thing, like that's the kind of scandal. We know the kind of scandal this story talks about because we're living in it now. Not like, oh, Juno, disappointed parents, but we'll all come together then. No. Not, hey, I'm sad that my daughter's, pregnant and she's not married, but we'll make it somehow and we'll all work together and it'll be okay. No. That's not it at all. What we have here is like a small town, which if you grew up in a small town area like I did, everybody knows everything. And this is unheard of. And you go, oh, so people were more, no. It wasn't about that they were more moral than us, but inside the marriage contract, this was between 2 families. And like the reason why she was probably engaged at that point, she was probably engaged for a long time. Like parents got together and they arranged the marriage and items were exchanged and a contract was made. And so when this happened, it meant that somebody went outside the marriage or these 2 were together already and probably an older person and a younger girl, not time yet for this to happen. And so it was a big deal. And it was something everyone had heard of, and it was something that no matter what, there was no good answer for this. Either Mary was the problem and she was with someone else, or they would think, oh, look what Joseph did. He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait and follow his contract to the wedding. I mean, it was a mess. It was the kind of thing you moved away for. So if we're thinking about baby Jesus as a real baby, A real baby with bathwater, what did he do first? First thing baby Jesus did, oh, it must have been amazing. I'll tell you what he did. He ruined his mom's wedding. That's what baby Jesus did. It says right here, notice it says, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged, and so, can you imagine? Like, if this were a real person, which it was, and this was a real baby, and this was a real time, which it was, when this thing didn't happen, when all of a sudden this long, probably, we think we plan marriages for a long time, we do, but probably much longer they had been engaged. And the families had decided, and there was this wedding going to take place in the future, and everything was planned out. And all of a sudden, everything was ruined. All of a sudden, we find in Matthew, we find the angel, and we'll talk about this later, the angel coming to Joseph and telling him the same news. And Joseph's like, well, the best I can do sort of is not embarrass her and just sort of break up with her quietly. That's the best I can do. But man, what a mess. It's like we look at this and we kind of see, oh, Mary totally baby, and they're by the manger, and look, there's shepherds, and there's wise men, and then everything's, now this was a mess. So that's just a little bit of the bathwater that comes. When a baby comes as a surprise, and a real surprise, because nothing's going on, and an angel shows up, and I know, like I can't imagine what it's like to see an angel, but I know what it would be like to have seen an angel. I mean, wouldn't you after a while go, did I dream that? Was I drinking? Like you would have to think out, like you'd be really firm, like I know I saw it, and then like, I can't imagine like the later she began to show, and like, oh, this is real. But I can imagine like those weeks leading up to that, thank goodness she went to her Aunt Elizabeth to kind of go, oh, look, this, what the angel said is true. I think that's on purpose, because I really believe she would have went crazy trying to think, did that really happen? Now that kind of made me think of something else that I wanted to share with you this morning, because I think this is, they say things are on brand, like, oh, that is on brand. Well, this is on brand for Jesus, because the first thing Jesus did, if you think about it, even before he was born, he ruined his mom's wedding. What was his first miracle? I was like thinking about this week. I was like, oh my goodness, and I want to read it to you because it's very interesting when you think that like Jesus had to know this, and Jesus being the Son of God and man and loving his mother very much had to know like what he caused for her. And so this makes more sense to me now as I read it. It says, the next day there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana. Flash forward 33 years. Jesus is beginning to gather disciples, but he had never done a miracle. He's just gathering people around him and basically talking. There was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee, and Jesus' mother was there. And Jesus' disciples were also invited to the celebration, which I love to know about Jesus. Like people actually invited him to parties. We don't think, we always think of him like, oh, he had to be serious, and he was son of, no, he was a guy that people loved. They invited him to parties. That's a good sign. And then it says the wine supply ran out during the festivities. Poor planning. So Jesus' mother told him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, Jesus said, that's not my problem. My time has not yet come. So he's actually telling his mom, like, what do you expect me to do about it? Like, I'm not supposed to be doing miracles yet. Like, I'm just starting out. His mother told the servants, do whatever he tells you, like we talked about last month and what to expect. Isn't it interesting that his mother expected him to do something amazing? Like, she knew. She absolutely knew. And it says, standing nearby, there were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing, and each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. This is a lot of wine we're making here. And Jesus told the servants, fill the jars with water. And when the jars had been filled, he said, dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies. So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over and he said, a host always serves the best wine first. He said, then when everyone has a lot to drink, he brings out the good planning tip here. When everyone's drunk, we bring out the worst stuff. And he's like, you're backwards. This is the best stuff. He said, the host always serves the best wine first. He brings out the less expensive wine later. But you have kept the best until now, and this miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed him. Isn't it interesting? Ruined a wedding, saved a wedding. First action on earth was destroying his parents' wedding, and first miracle, saved a wedding. And why did he save it? Because his mom asked him. Because his mom said, I don't want this to happen to them. This is going to be embarrassing to them. You do something about it. See, this is the truth of Jesus and the truth of babies, right? Like, babies will mess up your plans, right? Even if you plan a baby, that baby won't mess up your plans. All of us who are parents know that. And especially that first baby, because, you have plans. You know how it's going to work. You're like, I've read the books, and I've watched others, and I don't need any, but I know how it's going to be, and it's nothing like that. And you find yourself doing things you said you'd never do, and you find yourself saying things you say you'd never say, and all of a sudden you're one of those people. And it's just amazing because babies will ruin your plans in the best possible way. And here's what I'd like to leave you with this morning. Is Jesus, the real Jesus. The real Jesus with the bathwater, not some Christmas character, but the real Jesus who still lives today. Real Jesus who's still ruining weddings and saving weddings. Think about that. It's still true. Jesus will mess up your plans in the very best possible way. I want the band to come back up here. And I want to pray with you, but I want to leave you with one little idea. As we go into this Christmas season, it's sort of a challenge, I think, from Mary, because this is such an incredible thing she said. That when an angel came to this teenage girl, this girl whose life was about to be just, turned upside down. I mean, soon she'd be in hiding, running from the law. Soon she would be like a fugitive in another land. Soon she would be carrying this baby that everyone said, was a result of a scandal. But she knew, and only she and a few others knew, that this was the Messiah who had come to save the world. What did she say? She said, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. See, I want to pray with you. And I want to challenge you to let Jesus mess up your plans. See, maybe, I was thinking about this. Maybe some of us, and Christmas is a good time to do this. Some of us have all sorts of safeguards and spending caps and invite lists, and we've drawn names. We know how everything's going to go, and I'm just praying for you. If you're a child of God this morning, that Jesus will mess up those plans a little bit for all of us in a way that maybe we're going to go outside of our invite list, and maybe we're going to go outside of our spending cap, and maybe we're going to do something for someone who doesn't deserve it, and maybe we're going to make a phone call to someone who should have called us first, and maybe we're going to forgive someone who truly does not need to be forgiven, does not deserve to be forgiven. They've hurt us deeply. Because that's what Mary did. And we're still talking about Mary. That's the amazing thing. Like, on one hand, it's not true that she's some sort of Christmas character. She was a real woman, a real girl, and Jesus was a real baby. But it's even better than that. Because of what they did, and what we're going to talk about all month, because of what they did, we're still talking about today because they changed the world. And we can do that in our own worlds. I love what Mary said, I'm the Lord's servant. My life is not my own. May everything you've said about me come true. Let's pray together, and our prayer is that Jesus just ruins your plan of this season in the best possible way. Dear Lord, God, we're so grateful for this story. We've read it a million times, told it a million times, and it's so easy to sort of forget that it's a true story. And to sort of forget that these were real people and you were a real baby. And this was a real scandal, and this was a real mess. So God, I just invite you into our lives, all of us who follow you today. God, I pray that you would ruin our plans. You would guide us to do things that are outside of our comfort so that you, like in this story, so the glory would be brought to you. And God, I pray for everyone here who doesn't have a relationship with you, who is not a follower of Christ. God, I pray that they would consider this season changing that and making a step, and like Mary saying, I am a servant of God, and may everything that's said about me come true. In your name we pray. Now, next week, we're going to talk about, if that's a little scary to you, I totally understand. So we're going to talk about some shepherds who were totally freaked out and then became sort of the boldest people of their time. I can't wait. More music.